Yeah, I think we're ready to roll.
Great. All right. Well, thanks for your persistence with making this technology work. So it is December 6th at 5:12 p.m. And it looks like we are missing Julie Cooper and Jenny Bedoin and Taylor will be joining us later, hopefully. And we have no one in the room for public comment.
Correct.
So has anyone had a chance to review the minutes from last meeting? That's Connie.
Yes.
Pull those up and then
And
share my screen here.
So if I can get a motion to approve the minutes from the November 1st meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the November 1st meeting as written.
Second,
Okay, great. And is that
Tanley.
oh, Tanley, great. Thank you.
Yep.
All righty, so jumping right in, Bennett, sorry, I know you just joined us, but all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You think after doing this for 12 months, I know the system, but here we are.
Not quite 12 months, I don't think.
No,
Yes.
That's true.
it hasn't been. You've done great.
That's right. I guess it hasn't been a full 12 months. So.
Oh.
Okay, so sorry, Bennett, I know you just joined us, but we're like jump right in to cover the e-newsletter efforts. I know we've seen, and I hope everybody's had a chance to read them and also subscribe to our list, but the two newsletters that have already gone out. And Matt, it looks like you've got a reference to the campaign reports. Are we able to see anything about click-throughs or any links that have been clicked on to see if anybody's engaging with these emails?
Yes, and did I create those reports and then not distribute them?
You might have, I just,
That's
did anyone,
possible.
I wasn't sure if that was in the most recent
Yeah,
email today.
The actual report documents are not as important as the key takeaways, which are
Yeah.
basically that about a third of the recipients, so 300 some odd people are actually opening them and looking at them. The click rate is not super high, but it's not bad. It's something in the range of like 6% are clicking on things. So in my experience with the newsletter that I kind of send out for general economic development purposes, the statistics as far as percentage opens is probably pretty comparable, but the clicks I only usually get about 2 or 3% clicks on my newsletters. And then for this DEC one, we've got around like 6%, I said. So, and that applies to both this one that you see on your screen, as well as our sent out this inaugural one as well. I think the first one actually had fewer clicks. There was less to click on, but once we sent out the one that had some clickable links and some places to shop and whatnot, we got some clickage. So
we got folks coming to our shop because they said they saw something in the newsletter. So that's
oh, really?
yeah.
Well, that's super.
What did she say?
She said that she had one or several.
One that I know of for sure, but there might have been more because there were some people that hadn't been in our shop yet that were new to Estacada. So possibly they saw it in the E.
Yeah, that's great news. And
Yeah,
like,
no, it was really good.
yeah, and a side comment, as far as the comment or the content was concerned, I thought that the Clackamas River Outfitters, you guys had a more enticing, like you guys actually had sort of like a holiday package
Yeah.
for people to come in for, as opposed to just sort of a general like FYI we're here. So
Yeah.
that's great to hear.
Awesome. Thank
And I wanted to just give a really big shout out to Bennett for creating the content that goes into these newsletters so far. And Matt, I think you've had a hand in it as well.
Bennett wrote all the copy, and then yeah, it's been a team effort. We sent an email out to the businesses and they replied back with their their copy and photos. And so at that point, it's just kind of copy and paste and format into MailChimp, which is pretty intuitive, but just takes a minute or two.
Yeah, it definitely takes a little bit of know-how, so credit to you for figuring that out. So
The only other update I would add to that is today I sent out a follow-up to the same group of retailers that we sent for this. That was about 20 some odd businesses, and we only had a handful, as you saw, that responded. So giving them a second chance to provide content. And then I also added restaurants and food and beverage to that list. So whoever sends in new material will get another newsletter out in the next week or so.
okay. Great, and sorry, Bennett, a quick update, is this, do we, like, moving forward, do we still plan on keeping this as a weekly newsletter?
Think we're gonna be able to pull off weekly with Matt gone. Because Matt, tell me, are there any, if we had everything ready to go, is there anybody at the city that we could send, that I can send material to, and they can actually do this?
Are we talking about after the 17th of December?
Correct.
Yes. I would just, if continuing this on a regular basis is high priority, and it sounds like it is, then it would just be a matter of me setting that up so that someone can do it.
I think that would be really great, because now that we've launched it, the worst thing that could happen is that we stop doing it. And
Yeah.
And also, if anybody is reporting any result whatsoever, this is great. And so, I mean, it's, but I don't think we can pull off right now. I don't think we can pull off every week, but I think we could pull off every other week. What I have talked to Matt about, I don't know if he'll have time to do this, is that I have, he just sent that email out, as he's told you, to see if we could put out another one before Christmas with the Christmas ideas. The sooner the better on that. And then the next one that I would like to do is events and entertainment in the downtown core. So I know there's a number of groups that, and restaurants, shops, whatever, that have regular events, like Spiral Gallery has First Friday, and there's music jams, and there's, I think Jenny just added some music at her place on Fridays. Really would like to get that done, if at all possible, before the time that Matt leaves, because, or at least an email going out saying, do you have any events, so that we can collect that information. And if we have that information, then I think that would be actually a really good one to get people to come downtown. So, but after that, I don't actually have, I mean, I can come up with content ideas all the time, but those are the ones that I have ready to go.
Okay, so sounds like it's enough to at least keep us going for the next few newsletters.
Yeah,
How we meet next.
I think it's not going to be a problem. It's just that Matt actually did a bunch of the legwork. And without legwork or access to his email list that he's using to ask the downtown businesses for contributions to each one of these newsletters, then we're just going to be, basically writing the articles, which is not a problem, because I mean, they're not going to be long anyway, but we need, input. Hopefully we'll eventually have a system where businesses are supplying us with content on a pretty regular basis. That's my hope.
So I'm sitting here thinking, I think rather than, well, does anyone want to step forward and play more of a role in this newsletter? The role that I have in mind is to actually get the login credentials from me for MailChimp and to do the legwork that Bennett is talking about. And then then a staff person here doesn't have to do it. I think the only thing that we would need to do is probably just, when you get to the end of the process of creating the email, it gives you the opportunity to send a preview, like test email to someone or to yourself. So if that could be sent to a staff person to just say, yes, this is good, then we can hit send to the distribution list. But so that would require someone sort of stepping up to do that. Is anyone familiar with MailChimp that wants to take that on?
It's just not, email is not my strong suit,
Yeah.
so it's just not something I want.
Well, and if you've not used the platform before, it isn't fairly intuitive, but there is still some learning
I've
to do.
used it, it's just not what I'm good at.
Yeah.
Well, and to that point, what we had talked about before was when we get this social media up and going, that a lot of the newsletter content is going to be usable on our social media.
Yes.
So that's something you are an expert in. And so that would be the best use of your talents and time, in my
Agreed.
opinion.
Me too.
But we need a staff person to help with this.
Okay, so in the absence of someone stepping forward here, and that's okay, I get it. Let me see who that would be, and if we've got internal bandwidth to do it. I think we can probably absorb it, but I can't make a commitment on behalf of another staff person right now.
Well, tell them if we can just even do once a month for right now until you hire somebody, then at least we can keep it alive. But it would be just really bad if we launched it and then it dies.
Yeah, agreed. Yep, so I'll see who can help out with that. I know Taylor, who's our city planner. This would not be technically something that would fall in her wheelhouse, but I do know that she uses MailChimp for some of her own communications. So we'll see if I can rope in Taylor.
That would be great.
Great. Bennett, thank you. And this, I realize, is not on the agenda, but the columns that you have been writing for the newspaper, or at least that first one, I saw it published. I don't know if anybody else saw it published, but it is exciting when we get to see the Downtown Estacada Commission in the newspaper and see some familiar names, including my own. Thanks for giving me my 15 seconds of fame there. But again, thank you for doing the legwork to write those and get those submitted. So
Yeah, so now that we have done that first one, does anybody have any ideas for a next one?
it's a great question.
Yeah, that is a good one.
What was the question?
Do we have any ideas for what to cover in the next column?
When's that gonna be? Is that gonna be January?
Um,
How often are we doing?
yeah, Bennett, do we have like kind of a target for how often we're trying to do it?
That one I want to do once a month.
Once a month. Okay.
So I could do the event thing also. For the
That would work. And I can't remember, I'm sorry, in the previous column, if you had subscribe to our newsletter and if we included a way to do that. Do you recall?
I don't remember. I don't.
Yes, there was a link or
Okay.
something. It was a bit.ly link.
Yeah, I want to say that.
And
there
I'm pretty
was
sure it
too.
would have been the newsletter because we
Okay.
weren't signing up for, yeah, it was.
And we have had a handful, 5 or 6 or 7
Oh, yeah.
organic signups, and I don't know where they come from.
Right, Matt, I think actually you waited until you had an email address
Yeah,
to send that to the newspaper. So it probably did have something.
yeah, I think so. I went looking for that in the online edition and I couldn't find it. Was it only in the print edition?
Okay, oh yeah, it was in, I saw it in the print edition. I
Okay.
don't have access to the online one, so I can't speak for
Yeah, right. Okay.
online.
Well, maybe my point is moot then. I was just gonna say, well, we could write about the newsletter, how meta. And invite people to sign up for it. But maybe they're focused on events and stuff to do.
Yeah. Bennett, I'm thinking, yeah, I could definitely put some more thought into topics to cover in following newsletters. I'm just not good at on the spot brainstorming. So,
Yeah, there's, I mean, all sorts of things, but yeah, I agree. Maybe brainstorming them on the spot here is not great. I'm just thinking about, people, what are people wondering? They're probably wondering, what is that being built next to True Value? What's
Yeah.
happening with Carl Prokop's old building? Like we can kind of,
That would be a really great thing because people ask me every single day.
yeah,
Yeah, you
Every
can,
single day.
yeah, you can know what people are wondering if you go onto like Facebook,
yeah,
in a
next.
neighborhood.
Neighborhood watch.
There's all kinds of chatter on there. It might give you some ideas.
Yeah,
okay. So that's another column idea, is either for the newspaper or for the web news, email newsletters, just speaking to some of the rumors that may be flying,
yeah.
providing good information versus bad information. That's always a worthwhile activity.
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes?
Okay, so I think if you guys have your mics on, then, and closer to you, then we can hear you really well as well. Because I can hear Kim perfectly, but I have trouble hearing Connie and I have trouble hearing Tina a little bit
Okay, we'll fix it.
better.
Yeah.
They're also not saying as much.
The maps don't help. Okay, so, all right, great work on the e-newsletter and the column. So next up would be the design and outreach, which I believe, Matt, you were working on some action steps for those. I don't know.
So what I sent out just before this meeting is basically something you've seen already. These dates on the front page should probably be changed now that I look at it. So you've seen this. I made some very minor changes here to include the additional goals that we've talked about. So events, for example, and then under design, in addition to the first one where we talked about planning for signage, design criteria, parking, et cetera, I've also added this revitalization grant that we're potentially working on. And I think everything else is the same as what you've seen. So events, yeah, and then the addition to design. Let's see here. So that's unchanged, but then all the way at the back of this document, the addenda are all the same as what you've seen as well. But then the project / action plans are the new piece, I guess. But you've seen some of those. We needed to review design, outreach, and then Connie has some material for events. I think Connie has that in hard copy here, so we won't be able to share that on the screen, but Connie can speak to it. So, apologize for the fast moving screen. Oh, we've seen that. Okay, so for design. So here's project one, the Oregon Main Street Revitalization Grant. So I've just kind of laid out the steps and sub-steps that need to take place there. If we don't end up winning a grant, then this becomes a lot shorter and simpler. Connie, yeah.
It says in the minutes that the deadline for proposals was December 3rd. Did we
Yeah,
get some in?
we got one.
One.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it a good one?
I think as good as probably any.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that.
Cool.
Do we want to spend some time looking at these steps or just keep cruising for the moment?
Bruce,
Okay. So project two, I just called this policy recommendations to council. complete analysis and make recommendations for signage, design criteria, parking for council consideration. So I didn't make these steps specific to any of those three topics, that is signage, design criteria, or parking, but I tried to just create a template that you could use to work on either of those, any of those three. So determine the issue, collect data, make recommendations. I mean, that's basically the big steps, but I've split it into sub steps. Kept it pretty basic. I'm trying to think of anything noteworthy here. Can you read this from across the room or no? Okay.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I can't see them.
So for determining priority issues there, I'm sort of proposing that we use a list of property owners and business owners, residents, or other stakeholders. So that probably looks like our newsletter distribution, but reaching out to those folks to identify what I called real or perceived issues around any of the selected topics, whether that's signage, parking, or design criteria. Real or perceived, I guess we don't really know the difference between, but maybe that's less important. If it's perceived as an issue, then maybe it is. So then once we have some data, we take a look at that. And then for step 2 here, I guess the exercise that I'm trying to get at is looking at what is the perceived issue and then trying to collect some hard data that can substantiate whether or not it actually is an issue. So if we're looking at parking, for example, my guess is that people will say that there's a problem X or a problem Y. Well, we can go out maybe and collect a parking inventory or measure parking spaces or whatever it is that needs to be done to sort of validate or invalidate whatever the perceived issue may be. Or, and some of this input's going to come from within as well, right? Like, I think we have some sense of what the issues may be. And then finally, just to bring that recommendation to council. Likely what would come from this is not necessarily policy language that we're going to develop ourselves and then bring to council, or an exact number of parking spaces to be added or parking system to be implemented, but rather we're going to say, here's what the issue is as identified by our own analysis and by a survey that we sent out. Here's some things that we think might be worthy of consideration, but City Council, would you please direct staff to take the next steps to study this further and come up with a solution to the issue? So you could go a step further, I guess, and try and bring them an actual new policy. But at any rate, I still think that there's probably going to have to be additional eyes on it, whether that's a city planner or the city attorney or whatever, before there's any action taken. So you're bringing a suggestion to the council that's been hopefully well thought out. Okay, and then for outreach and organization, the goal there was to develop relationships with other agencies and organizations. And then I added, I guess, just this additional through doing that through semi-annual meetings. If that's not the vehicle you want to use to create that communication, then we can look at something differently. But I've basically just set this up as trying to invite communication between other agencies and organizations that have a vested interest in downtown by just convening them twice a year to talk through whatever needs to be on the agenda at that particular time. Let's see here. Oh, and then, yeah, so this next one, as far as outreach and communication goes, is it says increase communication among and between downtown stakeholders. So it's not just another newsletter. I think that we have a newsletter that we're starting right now that's aimed at residents. It's a marketing tool to get residents downtown. This other email that I'm envisioning here is something that's directed toward downtown stakeholders. And it's meant for a different purpose, right? It's not a marketing tool. It's more of a coordination tool to share important information and to just make sure that downtown stakeholders are all on the same page and are aware of what's happening. So I think that's okay. Design, outreach, and then Connie, did you want to speak to events?
Well, okay, I did come up with a plan for the promotion and events. So the 4th of July parade, Estacada Uncorked, and the Harvest Festival. I gave hard copies out here, and I think I sent you the electronic version.
Yeah, I've got that in my
Okay,
email.
do you want me to send that out to the board, or do you want to do that?
Either way,
Okay.
yeah, it doesn't matter.
And one of the things I would like to have everybody do is specifically look at this and come up with questions. What am I not covering? I've been pretty close to these events for a number of years, and some of it just doesn't, I know the answers to. So Kim already gave me a list of about 10 questions to help clarify stuff. So I'd like the board just to look at it and just give me some feedback.
Okay. And yeah, unfortunately, we don't have that to put on the screen, but we're covering things so superficially right now anyway, and maybe that's less important. Kim or anyone, I suppose, since we still need to take a deeper dive into events, do we want to hold off on sort of approving this whole strategic plan body of work at this meeting and wait till January? Or how do you want to approach that? I mean, I think that we're basically right there at the finish line, so long as everyone feels good about what I've developed and what Connie's developed, but I don't know how many people have actually read that in detail. So I don't want people to feel like they're voting for something they haven't read.
I think we should wait
Yeah, okay.
till everybody has a chance to.
Yes, these project plans were in the
I
email.
mean, Connie's part of this.
Yeah, no one's seen that yet, right? Besides me?
So Connie,
But I've revised it quite a bit,
Okay.
so I can send it out to the board. when I
Yeah,
get
if you have
home.
an updated draft, then yeah, just send it out to everyone.
I'll send it out to the board when I get home.
Perfect.
Just like out of curiosity, what are we waiting to vote on? Like, I know we have this whole plan that I feel like we've all been like really good about being in agreement with. So what are we necessarily waiting to vote on?
I mean, we've been sort of forming consensus all along the way.
Right.
I think it's more of a formal act of memorializing that we're all on board, that this is our plan as we head into 2022. And at the next time the board chair presents to the city council, this is our plan. It's going to be in their meeting packet. They'll be able to review it. Their vote is not required for us to act on it necessarily, but it would certainly be great for them to see what the plan is and to say, this is great, go forth, do good things.
So I guess I just feel like we've been doing this for so long, this plan, like, I want to like, in the new year, I want to just like work on it, like start
Yeah.
actually doing it. And so I feel like we just like keep pushing it back. Okay, next month, next month, next month. And I don't know, maybe I'm alone, but I just want it to be finished.
I don't think you're alone. I think there's nothing stopping us from starting to implement it, even though we haven't formally adopted it yet. And proof is we've already started doing that with the e-newsletter.
Sure.
So yeah, I think we can get to work even though it hasn't been formally adopted yet.
Okay.
We're at the 1 yard line.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess my follow-up on that would be, especially, I'm trying to think, we report to the board in January. So if we could all review and like extensively review the plan, the draft plan that includes Connie's event notes in there, and come to our January meeting, when is that? January, the first Monday of January. ready to approve it, then I think we would be in good shape. Because again, we can still keep acting out and making things happen. But I do believe that it's important that we have like all of the documents in front of us that we're saying yes to.
Yeah, so I agree. Just got to get everyone to, so that we don't end up in the same position next month, just make sure that everyone does do that homework. It's going to be a little, maybe not awkward, I'm not sure what word to use, but we're going to have some turnover in a couple of board seats.
Yeah.
And so maybe all the more reason to wait so that they can provide their voice and vote on it as well. Don't want to prolong and complicate it
Yeah,
even
no, because I
more.
agree with you too, Eric, yeah.
It's like, we've been at this for 6 months, it feels like let's like do something.
Yeah,
I agree.
Well, and then for the events that we want to do in September, we're going to need to start in February at the latest.
yeah.
So we need to get stuff done.
Speaking about the turnover really quickly, when do they vote on new board members, or if old board members want to continue forward?
They will look at new appointments on the 13th, so next week, a week
Oh.
from tonight.
Okay,
And so we have applications on our agenda tonight.
okay,
They don't have to, the city council doesn't have to follow your recommendation, but generally they'll, if this, the DEC says we want these folks on
Yeah.
the boards, and then chances are they probably will vote that way.
great, okay.
Okay, so sounds like we're gonna vote on a completed plan in January, and everyone in between now and then is gonna make sure that they've read it and endorse it.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I know there's been a lot of attachments and emails going back and forth, so maybe, yeah, if we could be very clear in the email about what's being approved, then I think we're in good shape.
So Connie, maybe if you want to send your revised draft to me, I'll just integrate it into
Okay.
the whole big plan document and send that out for people to review and comment on.
Okay.
Looks like we've got some hands raised.
Okay, Bennett, you're on.
Oh, I thought Stanley had something first, but, okay. So I think it would be a really good idea if we tried to draft some dates in the plan, in the action steps before we approve it. And they can be changed. It just would be, targets to shoot at.
Great. Who's gonna do that and when's that gonna happen? Are my questions.
So I think that ultimately Kim would be the person that would suggest the dates. And then we could just, say, yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm in a position where I could take a look at the plan and propose some dates for us to shoot for. So. And then did anyone else have a hand raised on that one? That was me.
Tanley, did someone say that she had her hand raised?
She did, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I just wanted to, I was back about approving the action plan, and I just wanted to echo Taylor's sentiment about wanting to get it going. I have read through it, and I'm personally can say that I'd approve of what I saw on there. But I know that has to happen as a group vote. So.
Okay, we're had a little difficulty hearing you, but I think what you said is that you've reviewed it and you feel good about it.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, sorry, I'm kind of up in the air. It's like, do we just jump in and approve it? I guess, Connie, you were saying you wanted more time to approve it. Or sorry, to review it.
I'm okay, whatever.
Okay, I think we're still gonna hold off until the first meeting in January, just so I could kind of follow the recommendation of adding a few dates. Again, I don't think this is like, we can still keep working away on things. I think it's just a formal thing to approve it in January.
Sounds good.
But yeah, there should be like no more additional work on the plan kind of moving forward. Okay, so Connie, do you have any more updates on events? Or anything else that you need from us? I know, sorry, we had discussed creating subcommittees.
Don't think so.
Okay, great. All right, Matt, moving on to revitalization grant update.
So by way of review, we sent a letter to the address listed where property taxes are sent to for all property owners in the downtown zone. And we received one proposal for a project to be a co-applicant for this grant. The address is 355 South Broadway, and for reference, that's the building next door to Taylor and Julie. It's owned by Hannah and James Smith. They purchased it in probably the past year or so from Sarah Lake. And they have a demo permit. They've been working sort of slowly and incrementally on just getting it down to its basic structure. And so now they're making a proposal for what they might like to do with it. So what we would do if we had multiple applications is be trying to prioritize and pick, but since we have one, as long as everyone feels like it's okay, then I think we just kind of move forward. But let me walk through. To be honest with you, I haven't spent a lot of time with this. I've been busy. But this is a sort of a basic mock-up of what they have in mind. I don't understand it to be set in stone in any way, but this is their initial proposal anyway. And it's all subject to further comment. One thing that is underscored with big bold letters and underlined in the Main Street grant application process is that these historic buildings need to be restored under what they call the Secretary of the Interior's restoration standards. And so some of these things, once we review those standards or an architect reviews those standards, may need to change, but this is the basic idea of what they would like to do with the building. So a lot of glass on the front. And then I think the biggest change is, well, they've got a couple different options here. So I'll go ahead, I think, and read this because I don't know it well enough to summarize it. This is currently the building, 1,200 square feet, made of clay brick, located in the heart of downtown Estacada. The building sits on a 2,500 square foot lot, 25 by 100, with a common wall between the neighboring buildings. The building itself has been many things over the years: cafes, coffee shop, floral boutique, retail space, and even a security services office. As the town has grown and changed, so has our beloved building. After removing many layers of what used to be the inside of our building, we found a few historical surprises, such as uncovering the original 1930 Old Forest growth Douglas fir floors. As we removed the current drop-down ceiling, we exposed two new potential ceiling heights. We knew that this was going to be just the beginning of taking this historic building and improving and growing it to adapt to our ever-evolving town for the next century. Our proposal is to expand the usable space of the building to take full advantage of the size of the lot. The new proposed footprint is approximately 25 by 80. It doesn't extend all the way to the back of the lot currently. Our goal is to provide a mixed-use building, providing retail space on the ground floor and a residential component on a new second floor. Adding proper foundations to support the addition of the second floor for residential use is a critical part of our proposal. Our plan for the second story will be 2 apartment living spaces. One space will be on the rear of the lot and the other on the front of the lot. Each apartment will have its own private balcony. The rear balcony overlooks the food carts and offers a beautiful view of the Estacada sunsets. The front balcony set back from the front of the building will be able to view Broadway Street. This will be a special spot during Estacada's Broadway events such as Uncorked, the 4th of July parade, Harvest Festival, etc. The front will retain its original brick look with a new stain color on the brick and with a new entrance. For the entrance space inside the brick, we will use a local timber frame company to create a new timber frame storefront for the building. This will give a new timeless but historic look, preserving Estacada's roots being a timber town. The floors will be the same salvaged old growth Douglas fir floors. The bottom floor will be used both as a retail gallery space and a photography studio. The retail gallery space will showcase prints capturing our town and surrounding landscapes available to be purchased and cherished by locals and tourists alike. The photography studio will serve the community for family portraits, newborns, and senior photos, and any of our community's individual photography needs. We envision using the second floor apartments of the building for one long-term rental and one short-term rental. The goal of the short-term rental is to partner with local businesses such as Clackamas River Outfitters or local fishing guides to help promote tourism to Estacada by offering a stay and play vacation package. 355 Broadway has been many things in the past 91 years. Our building has changed and adapted as our town has grown, and it's time for the building to be an integral part of the ever-evolving growth of our hometown, Estacada. A statement to co-invest, and then some current pictures. So thank you for bearing with me as I read that. So, the fun and the challenge of getting this project completed and getting it partially grant funded is, well, the first step in that process is just getting the money and writing the grant successfully. When we did this with the Mossy Rock building, staff covered 85% of that effort, and the building owner was a small contributor in terms of efforts. Unfortunately, since we're in this staffing transition right now and we don't know what the next couple months look like in terms of staffing, we're in a bit of an awkward position. So we have a couple options. If there's someone who has an appetite for it and thinks this is awesome and wants to help shepherd this through the Main Street application process, that would be great. If that person doesn't exist in this conversation today, then the heavy lift of getting that application written and submitted would fall to the property owner, and this organization, the DEC, would basically just be the conduit for the application and eventually, if funded, the money that comes in, sort of the fiduciary agent.
What kind of, how much time would you have to put into it to be the person that helps with this?
That's a good question. During the application, probably, I would say to write the application, it's probably 40 hours of work.
Okay, I'm out.
I'm not saying every week, I'm just saying a total of
Right.
40 hours probably. Maybe not quite, but it's a state grant and there are all these sections that want you to provide narrative about the community and the demographics of the community and the need for this project, and on and on and on and on. So it's sitting in front of the computer and typing out thoughtful responses to these grant prompts. Yeah.
I know these people, obviously, and I know that this would be a great grant for them and I would be happy to help. I just don't know how much time I can give. Like, I can't do 40 hours in a week. That ain't gonna happen. But
Yeah, but possibly if they could take on half of that or something like that, then maybe that's something to consider.
yeah, I mean, I would be happy to help them with this.
Okay. I didn't even realize that they had some of these renderings and things done. That's an interesting starting point and certainly makes it a compelling application. Oh, we've got a couple questions. I apologize where I'm not paying attention. Let's go with Julie since we haven't heard from you, and then Tanley.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Okay, so are we approving this, or are we just discussing about things that we like to see added, or is this more of the grant thing? I got a little confused here.
Yeah, no problem. So in a previous meeting, we talked about this grant opportunity. It's a grant funded by the state of Oregon through
Okay.
their Main Street Coordinating Program.
Okay.
So we would be taking this project and applying for the state grant.
Okay, okay. So are we discussing, okay, so the one thing that I want to mention, I don't know if this is appropriate time to mention this, is the the living space. I'm feeling that we need to start talking about parking, and that if they're providing a living space, that they also provide a designated parking space and not the parking out in front of Broadway Street.
Yes.
And so I don't know, how anyone else feels about that, especially Bennett maybe, but especially with Tom putting in that workspace in there with those work offices. I've noticed that Friday I went down and there was no parking on the right-hand side of the street, and there I didn't see anyone. No one was around. So I was like, where is everyone? But I've just noticed that more parking, people have been parking more long-term in the downtown area.
Yes, I agree with that. Definitely been a lot more long-term parkers and people from the co-working space that just sit kind of all day long in those spots. And if there are more living spaces, that is going to be an issue.
So this should be a conversation with the applicant. As far as city standards go, for buildings that front to Broadway, there's actually a no minimum parking requirement for any allowed use, commercial or residential. So from a policy standpoint, the city couldn't compel them to provide dedicated spaces, but certainly as part of this partnership, it could be and should be part of the conversation. Where do you intend for your residents to park? It sounds like they're not going to develop the last 20 feet of their lot. And so that's, maybe they're holding that for a parking space. I don't know. We'll have to ask.
Okay.
Tanley, you had a comment.
Let's see. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. So in regards to assisting these guys and getting this grant written, it looks to me as though they have maybe a little experience with this kind of thing, and like a little like with the savvy of writing it up, just based on what the proposal that I saw. But to give them a leg up, I think the person that helps them should have a little bit of knowledge about grant writing, just to give them the best possible chance at getting it.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I can try and tee up before I leave is all of the materials from the last application. I know a lot of the prompts are going to be identical. And so hopefully that could be used as a template to
Gotcha.
work from. We were successful in landing the grant, so hopefully it's at least decent.
Great.
But yeah, if someone has grant writing expertise, yeah, they're welcome to contribute. Bennett?
So back to what Julie was saying. So Julie, I agree with you that if it sounds to me like what we're creating is a conflicting situation where the city is encouraging mixed-use buildings, but we don't have the resources to actually accommodate mixed use. And so back to the plan, one of the things that we maybe want to prioritize is writing these letters and recommendation to the city saying, we really think that you need to purchase the block that what is, I can't remember who the name of the person is, but that owns that hotel, not hotel, but
McCrae's.
yeah, right. That area and build a parking structure. And I understand that that's not going to happen overnight, but unless that does happen or something comparable happens, then we have a conflict, whereas growth is restricted by the ability. I mean, you have Portland 23rd Street situation where, eventually people quit going down there because you can't find a place to park. And so when they built the Pearl District, which they put in plenty of parking structures so that that would not be an issue, and restricted residential parking to very specific areas. So back to how does that impact this grant? I think that we simply need to say there has to be some kind of parking. I think that in order for the city to participate in a grant request with this, with these individuals, that we can say, you have to show us how you're going to handle the parking situation with residential or bed and breakfast or whatever that it is. And just one additional thing that's kind of not related to this, Julie, is that what we have done is we tell our employees they cannot park on Broadway. And that is not the case across the board with businesses that are on that street. A lot of them park right on the street, and restricts the parking even more. That's all.
Yeah, I'll just chime in real quickly and then back to Tanley. Yeah, so perhaps we've got a policy issue that needs to be addressed. So I don't think that the merit of this project should be evaluated for the city's perceived or real policy shortcoming, though. So they're related. This application is, yes, related to a perceived parking issue, but they are two things that should be treated separately. So I think a conversation can be had with the applicant about what are their ideas about parking, and encourage them to accommodate parking on site if at all possible. But if the idea is to not allow long-term parking on Broadway, then that's a policy level decision that needs to be made. So the suggestion and the recommendation coming from DEC in time is, maybe putting a 2-hour limit on parking on Broadway Street, for example, or something like that, so that you don't have the bad behavior of employees camping out all day and residents leaving their cars overnight and all that.
So I appreciate that, but I don't understand why it wouldn't be related to the approval of this request. Because if, for example, if they had proposed something where they wanted to paint that building, hot pink, and with a bunch of plastic on the outside instead of wood and bricks and all the rest of it, then we would have seen that as being inconsistent with the direction that Estacada is taking. So I see that proposal in, the mixed use aspect of that proposal is going to cause additional stress on the existing infrastructure. So I don't know why it wouldn't be a consideration.
I think the difference is that plastic and hot pink would be prohibited by policy, and parking right now, as policy currently stands, is not prohibited. I think that's the difference.
And I think that makes sense. I feel like with the parking situation, they're not addressing it because it's not a role right now. But I'm almost certain that if we spoke to the applicants and said, like, what are the plans for parking? Can we work out something for parking, that they want the grant enough that they're willing to work on that?
Yeah.
And they probably want parking in Estacada to be easier too. So I don't think it should discourage us from going through with the grant, trying to help them get it, because it's only better for our city.
Mhm.
But I agree wholeheartedly with the comments that if there's concern about parking, then it should be addressed and prioritized top level. And
Yes.
hopefully by the time a policy change is implemented, it'll be about the time that this project is nearing completion, ideally.
Yes.
Was there anyone else who wanted to comment on this topic? Sorry, Kim, I'm kind of doing your job. I
No, this is
apologize.
great. Probably you have the answers. I don't have the answers.
Um, The next steps here, I think, are, I don't know what the next steps are since I'm leaving. The application is going to open sometime in January and it's going to be due sometime in March. Those dates have not been defined yet. So I guess the next step is probably to have a bit of a wait and see right now, in terms of what staffing looks like and what those deadlines look like, and probably discuss it in the January meeting in terms of seeing how you want to tackle it. May even be a good idea to invite the applicants to the January meeting so that you can have a conversation about sharing responsibilities and getting the actual application done. I suppose it is convenient that we only got one application, though. It certainly streamlines the process a bit.
Looks like Julie has something to say.
Or Julie has her hand raised.
Oh, yeah. Julie?
Do we have say of what the building looks like?
To a degree. I mean, it's yeah, to to a degree. It's private property, and of course they can develop it how they want as long as it meets the city's downtown design standards. If the DEC has really strong opinions about what that building needs to look like, then that should be a conversation. Like, yes, they have those renderings and they probably paid $1 or $2 for those, but if there are strong opinions, now's the time to surface those and have that conversation so that you can together arrive at a design that they feel good about and the DEC feels good about, and hopefully other people as well.
Okay.
So it's not set in stone. Now it's a long-winded way of saying, I think that we can provide input, but ultimately they can do what they want as long as they meet the city's standards. If the city and through the DEC hated what they were proposing, then we're under no obligation to help them secure the grant. So that's one point of leverage for sure.
Okay. Well, there was just I don't know if it was just a sample of the design or the design of the building that they, with the little angled bars, but I could totally see myself hitting my head 6 times on each one of those bars walking down to my shop.
I actually had a similar thought, and I think that may be a design component that's going to have to be discussed. So point well made.
The sidewalk. So anyways, that was my question. Not that, I would, tell them how they would do their front, but yeah, that design right there, I don't like that design.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Yeah, is that what you're talking about there, Julie?
Yeah.
A little
Yeah.
more modern than typical Estacada. for
Yeah,
sure.
and so to your point, Julie, I think that we probably want to guide them towards something that feels historic and complementary to surrounding buildings. I think that if something too modern is brought to the grant committee for this, the state grant review, it's less likely, I think, to be funded. The more true to history it is. So just by way of context, these grants are funded through the State Office of Historic Preservation. So they have a clear bias toward preservation projects. We applied in the first cycle for a brand new constructed building that was going to look modern and hip and like something out of Southeast Portland, and it wasn't funded. The next year we came back with something that restored something back closer to what it historically may have looked like, and it was funded. So that's one data point, but I do think it's informative.
Okay.
So would that then be something to mention to them if we brought them into our meeting on January, or when in the process do we mention this building design issue?
I mean, I think expressing that as a concern and something that needs to be discussed is, it's not too early to mention that.
And would that be something we could just reach out by email, call them?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, if I were going to be around longer, I would probably be happy to initiate that contact and have that conversation. But in between now and your January meeting, it'd probably be helpful if someone planted that seed perhaps and just brought them into the know as far as what the next little while looks like.
Taylor, how well do you know these guys?
James and I went to high school together, so I've known him for a very long time.
Okay.
So we're close friends. So I'm happy to talk to them and reach out to them and kind
What-
of let them know where we're at.
Why don't we do this? Maybe next week, we could all try and just meet together at your shop and
Yeah.
just kind of level set about what's going on.
That's great.
Okay.
All right, so passport project update. Matt, do you, know there are some updates there and Jenny's not here to speak to them. So can you cover Jenny's spot on that?
Yeah, I'm watching the clock. I'm gonna be really brief, I think. So
Yeah.
it's really crazy how we thought we had this novel idea for a project, and then we faced situations where the Chamber of Commerce was maybe gonna do something very similar. And now we've been notified by the Sandy and Mount Hood villages of Mount Hood Chamber of Commerce that they are doing something very similar, and they're inviting Estacada to be a part of that geographic area.
But only specific businesses.
What's that?
They only invited specific businesses.
Oh, is that
And they've
right?
already created it. It's already up at Hillockburn.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I went up to Hillockburn on Sunday and went to, I was talking to Rebecca and she was like, oh, here, did you do your passport? I'm like, my what passport? Because I thought it was ours for a second. I was like, what? Did I miss something? And she's like, this is from Sandy. And I was like, I'm not in there. And she's like, well, did you pay $10? I was like, I never got an email. She's like, are you on the Commerce? And I was like, no. And she's like, well, there you go.
I think, I don't know if I honestly don't know if they reached out to specific businesses or if they did more of a shotgun approach. I know I saw it in the Estacada Chamber of Commerce's newsletter.
Yeah, I'm not on the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
So, and I don't think Julie is either. I don't know.
No, I am not. And I've never had anyone even approach me to ask me about being on that. So
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed in that. I just, yeah, that's all
Same.
to me on that one, Taylor. I did not know that.
Tanley.
Yeah, we actually heard about it, and I honestly cannot tell you. It was very last minute. We got a call from our employee Albert like the day that it was supposed to go, and we were like, sure. Well, we want people to know about us down here, up there. So, but it was like literally like hours before. So I don't really know if they had a good, plan around rolling it out and being holistic about inviting businesses or what their plan was. But yeah, it seemed a little bit. Was it an email? What do you know? Like a while before? Okay, yeah. So yeah, anyway, I just want to let you guys know what our experience was.
Julie, did you have something else or just still have the hand
Yeah.
up?
I just want to say, I just find that just really unfortunate. I just feel that that would have been a really good tool to get other businesses to join their
Yeah, I
organization.
agree.
I would have joined if they would, not a problem. So, but once again, no one's ever even approached me to even ask me to be, to join. So yeah, that's a little irritating.
Yeah, I don't know that anyone here can take responsibility there, but I would agree that it's unfortunate. So, but the question before us, I think, is, do we proceed with our downtown Estacada specific passport in the new year, regardless of this Sandy and Mount Hood project? I mean, Taylor, you said you've seen it. How many Estacada businesses are in it?
So I didn't take it, but it was like, it's like just like a little brochure, is what it looked like.
Okay,
And then you get like certain number of stamps for how much money you spend.
huh,
So like Rebecca, one lady wasn't using it. She's like, oh, I'm gonna give you your friend's stamps since she's not gonna do it. And so she went on and gave her more stamps for like spending more money. And she's like, well, you're almost done with Estacada. So like almost like you had to spend money in order to get extra stamps.
okay.
I think we should continue on with our own.
Yeah, my feeling is that Estacada participation is probably pretty minimal and that we're fine to just proceed with.
Yeah, because I think it was just like Hillock Burn, I think Hanley's business, and then I think there was maybe only a couple other
Okay,
Estacada. There's a lot of Sandy.
okay.
Yeah, then so my vote would be to continue as well, especially it sounds like it's a very different program, not focused on Estacada, and leaving some key businesses out of the picture, which is really unfortunate. So I don't think we're really double doing it if we move forward with our passport.
Okay. So I think we're in a holding pattern on that project. But still moving forward.
All right, so I know, sorry, we have limited time here.
That's
So
okay.
moving on to applications for DEC.
So these I sent out just before the meeting. I apologize for not getting them out sooner, but I can throw them up on the screen here. Okay, I will do that, but just let me just summarize first. So here's kind of the situation. We have Tanley, Connie, and Bennett, whose terms expire on the 31st of this year. Connie and Bennett have both reapplied to continue on. That's another one of those situations where I think barring something crazy, they would probably just be reappointed by the council, but just want you to know that there are 3 seats technically open. We received applications from 3 additional folks besides Connie and Bennett's reapplications. So where that leaves us is, for the purposes of conversation, if we assume that Connie and Bennett stay on, then it's really 1 seat that we're talking about for 3 potential applicants. And then, Kim, is there anything that you wanted to say?
Yeah, so I do have an announcement to the group, and it's just sort of looking at commitments moving forward. I feel like my role here has just been sort of showing up to meetings, and I haven't had the time or bandwidth to do anything additional. So speaking with Matt, I would really, if we've got people who are eager to be on the board, I would really like to give up my position to one of these new applicants. The challenge is I'm also sitting as the chair position. So I would also need someone to step up as chair for the commission. But again, I would like to just sort of volunteer my position to somebody else in this application, our new application pool.
Okay.
Yeah, and we do have a vice chair, but we haven't talked to the vice chair about her availability.
So-
So,
So maybe at the next meeting, especially looking at the time, some time can be spent on figuring out an arm wrestling for who's going to be chair. But for tonight anyhow, to be clear, we don't choose who will be on the commission, but we can make a recommendation to council, and in all likelihood, they will probably accept our recommendation.
So can you
So-
send us out those applications?
Yeah,
or-
well,
They're in our
actually, I'd
email.
like to put them up now if I can.
Okay.
So incidentally, one application is from Hannah Smith, which is the owner of the building that we were just talking about. Her husband, James, also applied. When I received those applications, I let them know that more than likely, probably only one of them would be appointed, and they said, that's totally fine. We just both are interested and will be involved no matter who actually is formally on the board. So she wrote a little bit about herself here. My name is Hannah, lived in Estacada for 3 years, and our 2 children, dog and cat. They own the property that we were just talking about. Look forward to adding another gem to downtown Estacada. I adore the city, would love the opportunity to serve on the DEC. I have traveled and lived all across the country and have experienced downtowns of all shapes and sizes. I believe having this broad background as an outsider will bring some new contemporary vision while keeping a traditional and classic views towards the function of our downtown. I look forward to potentially having a voice for our quaint but growing city. Thanks for reading. And then we have, this is husband James, employed locally at Framework Plus, excuse me. He writes, I would like to be appointed to the DEC to contribute to the city council on matters regarding downtown Estacada. Because my wife owns the building we were talking about, I have lived in Estacada for the past 5 years. I would like to have a more active role in the direction and growth of our city. We have a lot to offer, and joining a commission like the DEC would allow me to contribute in creating a welcoming, prosperous, and inviting downtown where local families and visitors far and wide can come make memories and feel the love of our small but growing town. And then we've got one more.
Matt, why are we looking at these?
We would be making a recommendation to the city council on who would fill 2 vacant seats.
I thought it was 3 vacancies or.
Yes, well, it depends on how you look at it. So technically, we've got Tanley, Connie, Bennett, and then Kim's seat.
So that'd be 4. Well,
So we're
4
assuming, I guess, that Connie and Bennett would come back on.
okay.
So the remaining seats are 2.
Okay.
And that's with you being gone too.
Yeah, that would be with me being gone as well.
So one more here from Chris Stanton. He currently serves on the Parks and Recreation Commission. I have a basic understanding of how the city's roles overlap and function. Due to this experience, I'm well organized, diplomatic, creative, and have a visionary personality. He goes on, I would like to be on the commission in order to help our city thrive. It's different than other commissions, yet closely tied to our commerce, which is a large factor in determining the health and sustainability of a town. We're growing, and I want to be part of the areas that play an important role in making the growth positive and productive for our community. I also come with some ideas and strategies for events that the DEC may find supportive of their mission and or vision. Thanks for your consideration. Chris didn't mention this. He's also an employee at Ant Farm, which I think is an important consideration.
I thought there was one more that you sent us.
Yeah.
It was like stop or something.
Yeah, darn it.
I can read it. I have it right here in my email if you want.
Perfect. Please do that. I was going to do the same thing. I apologize that I missed that.
It looks
wait.
like,
There it is.
okay.
Okay, so electrician, currently serving on the board for Performing Arts Group of Estacada. This is Ron Stout. Oh, and there's no, I don't see any additional information. Did you have anything?
Nope,
Okay.
that's all that came across
So
for
this is
me.
what we've got here.
Is anyone in the group familiar with who Ron is?
No.
Anyone else on the call? No.
No, I don't know.
So again, we're talking, I think, essentially about 2 open seats. We have Chris Stanton, Hannah Smith, James Smith, and Ronald Stout.
So are we supposed to give you the 2 people that we think we would want?
Have some discussion and form a consensus, and that's what I will convey to the city council as your recommendation.
I ideally would like to see Hannah and Chris. That's my thing, just because I think Chris is going to be great. Ant Farm, he's very involved. He's got a lot of time. He used to be a teacher here. He's wonderful. And Hannah is really excited about being a business owner downtown and has a lot of great ideas too. So that's just my 2 cents.
Let's see here. Let's start with Bennett.
Well, I want to encourage Kim not to resign. You may want to resign as the chair, but I'm hoping that you will, particularly since we just finished the business plan, I think it would be very useful to keep as many existing members as possible. And you may not think that you do anything except for show up at meetings, but I think you've done a seriously good job at moving this group forward. So that's my opinion.
Thank you for that comment. And while I agree with your assessment of Kim's contributions, Kim, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I'm in the unfortunate position where it's, I'm just having to, I've pretty much made it up. Just talking to my husband that it's something I need to do, mental health and for other reasons. I hate making a commitment and not being able to follow through with that commitment. But I need to step aside. And I do hope to get involved with the DEC in the future, at least helping volunteer wise with events and other things.
Fair enough. I just wanted to give it a stab.
Yep. And I do appreciate your feedback, Bennett.
How about, Julie?
I agree with Taylor on recommending Hannah and Chris. But just a quick question, how does that work if someone serves on the board and then goes through this grant process with us?
She could recuse herself.
Yeah, Connie's got the answer there.
Okay.
So if there were a binding vote at some point, she should recuse herself and not be a part of that vote.
Okay. But yes, I would recommend those two definitely.
Tanley.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I actually wanted to say that I think Chris and Hannah would be a great fit as well.
And I apologize. Sometimes, like, as you know, I say more than I should, and I probably play more of the chair role than the chair does, and that's probably not the way it's supposed to be. But I didn't want to discourage any conversation about Connie and Bennett's seats. I know that that's pretty awkward, but nonetheless, I don't want to squelch that. So if there are different configurations besides what Taylor has proposed, now's the time, I think, to put those on the floor.
I want to agree with what Taylor recommends. I think Chris would be a great addition. But I also want to keep the names of those people that did submit an application so we can reach out to them maybe for volunteer on some of our events.
And hopefully subcommittees that will be taking on these projects that we're looking at.
And I also appreciate all that Kim and Tammy have done, and I appreciate their position as family people and Tammy business owners. So thank you for your service, but we will call on you.
Yeah, I hope so. And I would like to, at some point when, things even out a little bit and have a little bit more time, I may reapply at some point.
And I apologize. I just realized that I'd never mentioned to the group that you had contacted me and said that you were needing to step aside for now. So I apologize. Big oversight on my part there.
That's okay. That's okay.
Well, all right, so then I second Taylor's votes and for Hannah and Chris, and obviously like 100% back Bennett and Connie for their continued involvement in the DEC.
And I know you said we were waiting to talk about the chair for next meeting. I'm totally fine with that, but I am also totally fine to take on that role too.
All right, well, there's that conversation.
Done.
Okay.
I don't know that's necessarily done, but yeah, Kim, I guess what we would probably need for the recommendation is just a formal vote on the record that everyone agrees with the recommendation of Connie Bennett, Chris Stanton, and Hannah Smith. And then, maybe formalize the chair and vice chair role in the January meeting when you have new commissioners.
Okay, so would the vote or our recommendations, do we need a first and second on that? Or do we just all need to raise our hands and say
Oh.
yes?
So Taylor pretty much did a recommendation.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I can do a second.
Okay,
Okay, so I'll note that. Motion by Taylor and a second by Connie. I
and
guess we just need a vote.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm gonna abstain because I don't know any of these people, and I guess I would prefer that they would have come in and we could have met them or something, but in the absence of that, then I'll just abstain.
Okay, noted.
Right, and then, the chair piece, we could do that at the January meeting or, I didn't catch, are we doing a vote now that Taylor would
Theoretically,
take chair as? Or,
yeah,
as of the
theoretically, I
January
guess
meeting?
you could vote on it now. There's no problem with that. It might be, it might be better practice perhaps to wait until you have your newly constituted commission to vote on the chair.
Okay, so wait till January. Okay, got it. And then, I know we're like now out of time, but do you want to just give a very quick update on the response you received from Clackamas Community College for the community outreach?
Yep. So in our last meeting, as part of our economic vitality planning, we discussed the possibility of doing outreach to the community and trying to gather data, objective data as well, to inform a business recruitment strategy. And so I can't remember who it was, a very smart person said, well, why don't we reach out to the community college? It was Connie. And see if there are either student resources or faculty resources or some way to partner to get this work done. And I tried a few different paths. I contacted business faculty, SBDC, and then copied Jane Reed, the board member for CCC. Yeah, Connie?
Did I forward you the message I got from Jane about what she did as far as talking to a marketing professor?
I didn't know. No.
Okay. Jane talked to a marketing professor at Clackamas Community College. He said for this term, it's too late in the term to take on a project like that, but possibly for the next term, they would be interested in looking at that.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I thought I sent that to you.
that's okay. And it's possible you did. So the good news is, and the brief update is that it looks like there's a couple different options here. One of them is to use a student either studying business or marketing or both. And the other option would be through the SBDC. Apparently at the SOU campus, Southern Oregon University, they have a market research institute.
Oh, wow.
And they do this type of stuff apparently all the time. And so that's a resource that we may be able to call upon as well. That conversation hasn't moved past them responding to my inquiry and saying, let's have a phone call and discuss it further. But that's the brief update. There's some possibilities there that someone will need to take and run with. I don't feel that project was necessarily like super urgent right now. So maybe wait till there's another staff person to take that and run with it.
So Matt, before you wrap things up in December here, can you make sure that we've got the right contact information and the email exchanges?
For that particular topic?
Opportunity, yeah.
Yeah, I will.
And I'd like to help keeping that on track.
I'll send it to you, Connie.
Great, Matt. Thanks for, again, all your legwork on all of these different moving pieces. So with that, on to public comment, no public comment, but do we have any general comments from the rest of the board here?
Just thank you, Matt,
Yeah.
for everything that you've done. I mean, you've just made such headway here in Estacada. Thank you for everything. I know you're gonna just do great. We knew we were gonna lose you eventually. You're too good to stay here, so. But thank you, and thank you, Kim.
I know, we're gonna miss you.
No, I was just waiting for a pause because you used that same phrase in my office earlier today. You're too good, and that just makes me really uncomfortable. This is not about me moving beyond Estacada. It's an opportunity to be a little bit closer to home and a little bit bigger jurisdiction, and it's just some change, you know. And thank you for your kind words.
Yeah.
I know there was someone who staffed this position before me. Her name was Tara. Connie, you knew her. I don't think the others, well, maybe some of you did, actually,
I
now that I
did.
think about it. Yeah.
I did.
And she also was awesome and highly capable. And when she tendered her resignation, I think a lot of people went, oh, man. And it turned out I wasn't so bad, I don't think. So the reason why I mentioned that is just to say that I'm confident that whoever comes next is also going to do a great job. Yep.
You'll be missed too, Kim.
Sad.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sorry, you guys beat me to the punch for thanking Matt. I was like, I only see like the tip of the iceberg as far as everything you do for our city. So I can only imagine how much is underwater there. Yeah, you're definitely a huge asset to the city, and it's been a pleasure getting to work with you and see all of the different areas that you touch. So
Likewise.
we wish you well. And thank you to the rest of the board. You guys have been great to work with. It's been awesome to see this process for the last year. And again, I'm stepping down formally, but I still hope to be involved and watch what you guys are doing. So appreciate it. And with that, I say this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, disconnecting you virtual people. Have a good night.
Thank you, Julie and Tanley.
Thank you, guys.
We both